So, friends, President Joe Biden has pardoned his son, Hunter Biden. Let's talk about that, because justice matters. Hey all, Glenn Kirshner here. So friends, let me admit to something right up front. When it comes to pardons, I'm kind of allergic to them. Okay, maybe not technically allergic, it's probably not a diagnosable allergy, but look, I was a career prosecutor, and prosecutors generally are not wild about pardons. Why? Well, because when a crime is committed, that crime should have consequences. When a crime is committed, there are victims, and the people who commit those crimes should be held accountable. When you pardon someone after the police have investigated the crime and determined there's enough evidence to arrest someone, and when the prosecutors present the evidence of that crime or crimes to the grand jury, good citizens who are summoned to do grand jury service, to sit there week after week, sometimes month after month, listening to the evidence as it's presented by the prosecutor and reaching a determination whether the evidence supports indicting someone for that crime or for those crimes. And then when the case moves into court and motions to dismiss are litigated and courts and judges decline to dismiss them because the case, the indictment, is supported by the evidence, and then a trial is conducted. And 12 jurors, after assessing all of the evidence that was introduced by the prosecutors and the defense, reach a decision that the evidence proves guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. When someone is thereafter pardoned, it feels wrong. It feels like it undercuts and even disrespects all of that work, all of those organizations, all of those folks who tried to hold the criminal accountable. So now that I have fully disclosed my allergy to pardons, let's turn to the new reporting. This from the Washington Post. Headline, Joe Biden pardons his son, Hunter. And that article begins, President Joe Biden on Sunday issued a full and unconditional pardon for his son, Hunter, a controversial decision that reverses his long-standing pledge not to use his presidential powers to protect his only surviving son, who was found guilty of gun-related charges in Delaware and pleaded guilty to tax evasion in California. Using his executive authority in the waning days of his presidency, Biden lifted the legal cloud that has hung over his son for several years. While the president had pledged several times not to pardon or commute Hunter Biden's sentences for federal crimes, many close to him, to the president, had expected the pardon would come, given the president's loyalty to his family. Biden faces few political ramifications for the move since he's leaving office, and voters have already rendered their verdict on his administration by electing Donald Trump to a second term. In a lengthy statement on Sunday night, released just as he was preparing to depart for Africa that evening, the president said that his son had been selectively and unfairly prosecuted. He said that he did not interfere with the cases, but insisted that they were brought about because of political pressure on federal prosecutors. Quote, no reasonable person who looks at the facts of Hunter's cases can reach any other conclusion than Hunter was singled out only because he is my son, and that is wrong, he said. there has been an effort to break Hunter, who has been 5.5 years sober, even in the face of unrelenting attacks and selective prosecution. In trying to break Hunter, they've tried to break me, and there's no reason to believe it will stop here. Enough is enough. Biden said he came to the decision over the weekend, which coincided with the family being together in Nantucket, Massachusetts for Thanksgiving. Hunter Biden's attorneys this weekend also mounted a vigorous public defense, releasing a 52-page paper on Saturday titled, "The Political Prosecutions of Hunter Biden." Quote, "I believe in the justice system, but as I have wrestled with this, I also believe raw politics has infected this process, and it led to a miscarriage of justice," Biden said in his statement, which was released shortly after news of his decision was first reported by NBC News. "I hope Americans will understand why a father and a president would come to this decision. According to the text of the pardon, it applies to all offenses that Hunter Biden has committed or may have committed or taken part in during the period from January 1, 2014 through December 1st, 2024. You know, friends, I have kids. I have grandkids. I understand a parent's inclination to want to protect their sons, their daughters, even to want to protect them from the consequences of their own bad decisions. But when you're president, should you use those powers that are unique to you, to act contrary to the interests of so many? And I'm talking about the people we just listed: police, investigators, prosecutors, grand juries, judges, trial juries. Should you use your powers to protect, to pardon your son? I think what bothers me most, and maybe what disappoints me most, is President Biden repeatedly assured us that he would not pardon his son right up until the moment he pardoned his son. Now, friends, I understand and appreciate all of the counter arguments, like, well, Donald Trump has an enemies list. And Donald Trump said that he's going to be all about retribution and revenge this time around. So he very likely would have directed his FBI, his DOJ to go ahead and prosecute Hunter Biden some more, possibly on some trumped up charges. I get that. And President Biden's pardon of his son cuts all of that off at the pass. I also understand Donald Trump has a lot of enemies who won't have the benefit of having a father who's in a position to pardon them. I also understand President Biden's articulated concern that this feels like a selective prosecution of his son. Now, first of all, selective prosecution is a term of art in the law. You can actually make a legal challenge that the government, the prosecutors, are unconstitutionally engaged in a selective prosecution. And I believe Hunter Biden's attorneys made some of those arguments, but they were rejected. And the reality is that Hunter Biden was found guilty by a jury of his peers beyond a reasonable doubt of committing certain firearms offenses that are not ordinarily brought when those crimes are not coupled with, for example, somebody who unlawfully purchases a firearm and then uses it to commit crimes. But the evidence proved to the jury's satisfaction that Hunter Biden did commit a number of firearms offenses, and Hunter Biden himself pleaded guilty to the tax offenses, and I believe paid back whatever he owed with penalties and interest. So the reality is Hunter Biden did commit these crimes. But would Hunter Biden have been prosecuted if his last name wasn't Biden? If he wasn't the president's son? Probably not. Does that justify the pardon? You know, friends, as you can tell, I struggle with this because the rule of law, if it is to matter, it has to be applied equally, left, right, and center. And it needs to matter. If we have any hope of keeping our republic, the rule of law needs to matter. Friends, was that as unsatisfying a video for you as it felt like it was for me? This one is hard. I am conflicted. You know, I don't want to endorse prosecutions that are born of politics, but I also find myself struggling to fully excuse crimes that were committed, indeed some to which he pleaded guilty, with a pardon, with a remedy that is only available to the most privileged among us. So I'm sorry if that, at the end of the day, is an unsatisfying discussion. I'll try to do better tomorrow. Please stay safe. Please stay tuned. And I look forward to talking with you all again tomorrow.